Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome to this latest episode of Critical Thinking Bug Bounty Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Justin Gardner, and co-host Joel Margolis is currently not here today, so we brought on a great guest, Corben Leo, amazing hacker, wonderful methodology, so I think you'll really enjoy what he's got to say this episode. But before we dive into it, I wanted to ask you to head over to criticalthinkingpodcast.io and subscribe to our newsletter. What that's going to do is it's going to give you access to a text version of the content that we've been producing here, produced by none other than Jesse Rivera himself. So during the nice little intro song that we've got here, pull out your phone, head over to criticalthinkingpodcast.io and drop a subscribe. Hope you enjoy the episode. Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to the pod, Corben.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Thanks for stepping in last minute.
Yeah,
we had,
no worries.
We had Joel disappear on us this week. He had some family stuff coming up, so I texted Corben yesterday at like 9 p.m. and be like, yo, can you get on the pod tomorrow morning? So appreciate you stepping in, man.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course.
All right. So I've got a bunch of questions for you. And I hope, did you grab a report, by the way?
Yeah, I have one in mind.
Okay, cool. Nice. I was gonna go to my collaboration stuff and see if we could find one that we worked on together. But yeah, if you've got one, that works too. Okay, so first, let's go ahead and do the news section. So how this works, Corben, is we first do the news, and then I ask you a bunch of questions that I've got in the doc about your life and your hacker vibes. But since we've got no Joel today, you're stepping in and you're doing the news with us. Alrighty. So first thing that I had on a list here, and this is pretty cool. I really like just DNS rebinding as a concept. But there was an article that came out earlier this week called State of DNS Rebinding in 2023. And actually, I think it got released actually about a month ago now, but it just came across my feed. This was by an NCC group. And essentially, it's exactly what it sounds like, a State of DNS Rebinding article, and it talks about all of the different sort of restrictions that they have in the space. There's local network requests, which is a sort of a new restriction that's coming into place. Unfortunately, like in this upcoming version of Chrome, we're about to lose access to a bunch of local network stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's just to sort of summarize it, it's going to start. There's going to be some core stuff that's going to start coming into play on local network access, and this is already in what is called a Chrome depreciation trial, which essentially allows for us to have a developer token that you request if you still need this feature, so that they can still like sort of gradually roll it out and not break everything. So that was something I'd never heard of before, and I thought was pretty interesting. Let's see, what else is there here? Yeah.
Good thing
okay.
all these bug bounty programs are in outdated versions of Chrome still, right?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah,
10 versions behind.
They still have like a lot of times what you run into in those sort of situations is like super mega old Chromes, and that becomes the problem, right? Is like, oh man, how do I hack this thing that doesn't have any of the features I've been used to for the past 6 or 7 versions? Let me see what else I had here on the notes. So yeah, this is something that we talked about when we did the episode on rebind multi-A, and that is that Chrome there is a rebind that you can do in Chrome that's instant with using a record that has multiple IP addresses that it resolves to, and that can rebind only to local or only to 0.0.0.0, which is like sort of a private IP address. I mean, technically you can access local services, but it's not necessarily specifically a loopback or local IP address space. So there's a Chrome issue that we'll link in the description saying specifically, tracking that specific vulnerability. But as of right now, the takeaways from that article are that you can still attack surfaces on 0.0.0.0 using Singularity or my DNS rebinding tool. And then the other thing that I didn't know was that the WebSocket port scanner still works. So you can still do timing attacks against local services and services on the local network using a WebSocket port scanner, which I thought was pretty rad.
That's cool. Makes sense.
Yep. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, so let's see. Douglas Day, Archangel D-Day is his Twitter handle, posted a Twitter thread, which I know Corben loves, right?
It's been a while.
Yeah. And he dropped 100 very short bug bounty rules. And I think at the end of the tweet, he kind of linked to Ryan Holiday tweet where he got that sort of flow from. But this is a really cool tweet that has a bunch of really nice advice for what you would do if you were, 100 different rules for bug bounty and what kind of stuff you should try to approach. So I figured let's go ahead and take a peek at these real quick, Corben, and read through some of these and give these a talk. So one of the ones that popped out to me was give yourself a no bug limit. I do 3 hours. So he said that if you don't find a bug within 3 hours on a specific part of the topic or target, you move along. What do you think about that, man?
I mean, I think that makes sense. I mean, I don't think I don't do 3 hours. Maybe
really?
I should, but it's just okay, I'm kind of sick of looking at this. I'm gonna go look at something else.
So you move along pretty quickly.
Yeah, I move on decently quickly.
Okay, gotcha.
Especially when it's a really big app. If it's bigger, then it's okay, I don't see anything. I don't know. I tend to some people do more of the pen tester methodology where it's okay, I'm gonna test this specific thing for literally everything. Whereas it's okay, I'm gonna just check out the different functionality and then I'm gonna I don't know, go where my spidey senses are tingling in one area, so I'm gonna go look at this and then I don't see anything here, and I just kind of do that.
I feel like you have a pretty strong hacker spidey sense, which I think we'll touch on a little bit later in the flow, but I'm definitely interested in trying to crack that nut a little bit, because when I read through your threads and just when I've seen you at the live hacking events and such, I feel like you find bugs that are pretty different from what I find. So I think our methodology sort of deviates a little bit there, and you're a little bit more recon heavy, which is cool. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, okay. So this is another one that I thought was pretty cool. 24. It says six 1K mediums pay more than one 5K crit. Don't ignore any bugs. And I think this one is kind of because there's a certain brand of hacker that just kind of only reports highs and crits, and that's great. But I totally agree with Douglas here that there are a lot of people, and even ignoring lows, I think is a mistake, because one, that's value you could have in your pocket, and two, if the company is going to pay for it, it's something that they want. It's something that they think would secure up their attack surface. So I would say never don't report a bug that you think might be valid.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, there's sometimes, I guess it kind of depends. If you find or stumble across a medium or low bug, why would you not report it? Because it's just you might get duped, but hey, if, there's a chance you're not, and I guess that's free money. But yeah, then there's other people that just don't even look for mediums or anything lower than that too.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I feel like I stumble across mediums or lows when I'm looking for higher impact bugs.
Yeah, same here.
That's the kind of thing that I like, when I'm, and I've talked about this on our episode. I'll have to pull it up right here. The episode where we talk about how to find a good program, episode 13. I kind of talk about this, whenever I'm choosing a program, I always try to pick a program that has good payments for lows and mediums as well. Because as you're going after those highs and crits, you're always going to stumble upon the lows and the mediums. And it's just nice to have a good, consistent, influx of bounties coming in to keep you motivated and to keep your, wallet full if you're a full-time bug bounty hunter.
Yep, exactly. And I think like the inverse of this problem too is like when you're only looking for like lows and mediums. I know people who like, I guess I don't know if like anyone specifically who does that, but I mean, I guess that's a mistake too. Is I guess that might just be like.
Well, I think that's a beginner thing as well.
Yeah, I think it's just a beginner thing too. It's trying to like crack to find like bigger and bigger things. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it can go, if you're just not dreaming big enough in your attack vector mentality as well. Like if you're never thinking, like for example, I used to very rarely look for arbitrary account takeover, right? Because I was like, this bug is just kind of like a myth, right? Like does this really exist though? Yeah. And then like, I see you and OXACV and some of the other hackers out there that just kind of have a different mentality start popping some of this stuff at live hacking events. And I'm like, oh, wow. Literally, OXACV, I love it, man. He literally, I think you know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. That one was actually insane. That was absurd.
And it was just
I thought that couldn't be done.
Like literally 15-year legacy code where he popped an arbitrary account takeover just because it was like a string contains bug rather than a string equals bug, which is crazy. So
that one blew my mind.
I think keeping the attack vector mentality high is another really good, solid tip.
Well, yeah, and also don't like put restrictions on ideas before you try it too. It's like, oh, there's no way that could work. It's like you'd be surprised by how much code is just like strung together.
Yeah.
With who knows what.
Devs do crazy shit sometimes.
Yes,
man. They really do.
Exactly. And there's just weird services that interpret things differently. Like you never know.
Yeah. So I know I kind of threw this on you last second here with the tweet, but you see any of these that stand out to you in particular?
Let me see. I mean, I think. Let's see. Let's see. 36. You find a bug that's out of scope. Like this is a whole nother. This 36 you could talk about so much more too. Is like,
what is it? 36.
If you find a bug that's out of scope, still ask the customer if they care. I don't know. That's a really tough one because like there's obviously reasons you have scope sections in like programs have scope sections. You don't want them hacking like third party. Obviously, there's like you might have to find an RC on something, but like it's contained as a sandbox. It has like access to nothing.
Sure.
There's plenty of still like out of scope things that have like an insane impact that like the customer might not know about too.
Yeah.
I've had cases of that.
So you say don't ask the customer if they care, just submit the bug, or what are you saying?
Not necessarily. It's like I don't know. It's really difficult because like you shouldn't just go like hacking out of scope stuff just for the sake of hacking out of scope stuff. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't want to get into this.
I feel like you do that, Corben. Like,
yeah. I mean, there's lots of times I've had some pretty good bugs by going a bit out of scope. And to be fair, it's a program that has had a VIP section where they have only a certain number of assets that are in scope for the VIP paying program. They also have a VDP. So like with that program, it's a lot easier to do this. But I've had like instances of like a domain that isn't even related to that company. And it turns out that it was owned by them. But it was somehow linked to this like one asset, this like production database of all their like customers. And it was like, this huge like information leakage. That was by some like, it was way out of scope. I don't even think it was listed in their like VDP program, but it was still owned by them. And so like that one was paid for their max, like a max crit inside their VIP program, even though it wasn't even like listed in scope.
Wow.
But then I've also had like, in other companies, I'll have like internal host names that they use for networking, inside like Kubernetes pods, just within their like corporate network. And there'll be times that there's like assets that are still on the internet with like SSL certificates linked to those, and you can still hit those. And like there's like vulnerabilities on those apps that like, okay, it's not listed in scope, but hey, this is like really bad. This is like internal like infrastructure. There's like lots of like sensitive information. I don't know, you can find like bugs in these apps where it's like really bad, and they still care about that.
I feel like that's kind of crazy, right? Because like if they list something, and you never really know for sure unless unless you're internal, but if they list something like, okay, www is in scope, and www is just reverse proxy to this backend API that they have that is on a different domain. And so literally everything that every piece of functionality that www has, is getting routed through this API. But that backend piece, if you access it directly, it's not in scope. That doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, it's like example.com/API is actually just reverse proxying to API.example.com.
Exactly.
That's not listed in scope, and it's just like, I don't know, it gets weird.
It does get weird. It does get weird fast there. I think, and I think one other one that just popped out to me, and then we'll move along to the next little thing here is, if an app is number 28, if an app uses UUIDs, you can still look for IDORs. Just set AC to high. And I think this is one of the mistakes that I made early on, is not realizing that. Is that some programs will say, hey, UUID IDORs aren't going to be a thing, but that's literally what the attack complexity high metric was made for, is like, hey, there's some piece of this attack that requires some state to be, the application to be in some state, or some piece of information that I don't know, but it's reasonable for me to get. And so, these sort of IDs in these IDOR scenarios aren't really being treated as sensitive information. And so it's definitely, I think, falls within the scope of AC access control high to report that.
To be fair, I wouldn't really even call it, I don't know if I'd call it an IDOR, if I'd just call it like an access control bug.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I mean, I guess it is still, an IDOR. I just think, like, when people think of IDORs, because that means, like, you're still, and you're just referencing another object. But, I mean, like, I don't know, I guess with a lot of programs, like, a lot of people just, when they think of IDOR, they think it's like, okay, I can just, like, increment, decrement a number. And sometimes, like, I've had success where I just say, like, hey, it's an access control bug, and it kind of clicks for them, because they're like, oh, wait, you can't just easily get this like, UUID, but, like, you can find ways to leak it still. So, and you're, like, still shouldn't be able to access it, so sometimes just, like, framing it, like, access control issue, or, like, lack of, like, access control, or something like that, is just, like, an easier way to present it to someone who might, just not,
not get the full picture, for sure.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into like 41, when it just says like, spend the extra time making your report look or read nice. Just write well, write clearly. Because I mean, this whole thing's about communication. So
funny you should mention that, Corben, because I have on my list of notes about you, when I did my little OS int on Corben before this episode. I one of the things that really stood out to me a lot is your propensity for storytelling and writing, and combining that with hacking. And so, tell you what, let's finish the news section, and then I'll come back to that real quick. Okay. No worries. Real quick. So definitely check out that tweet by, it's Archangel. Please say it for me, Corben, please. Like
Archangel.
Thank you. I couldn't say Archangel.
Archangel. Getting
into
some math.
Jeez. Sorry.
Say that 10 times fast.
I get that. Archangel D-Day is his handle on Twitter. Go check it out. It's a great tweet. Okay. Next one that I wanted to talk about was the service called Talkback. This is actually put out by LTAM, one of the companies that we mentioned before on the pod. And this is just a news aggregator for cybersecurity related, InfoSec related content. And I've just got this favorited, and I'll pop this open every couple of days and just kind of scroll through the last couple of days of,
really cool.
of news. I just wanted to throw that out there because it seems like a pretty good resource. It's not necessarily...
I've never seen this before.
Yeah, it's pretty... I don't think it's caught on as much, so I'm hoping that people will start using it a little bit more. And yeah, it's not necessarily bug bounty oriented, but it is, InfoSec oriented. So for those of you that have a little bit broader horizon than just bug bounty, that's a good place to look. Let's see. Last thing on the news item for today was PyPI just released recently that they are going to enforce mandatory 2FA for all software publishers. And I think this is a great idea. I think that this is something that should have been implemented a while back, and I think this will really help with the whole. It's not necessarily dependency.
Attacks.
Yeah, Exactly. Supply chain attacks. Not necessarily dependency confusion, but it's like a scenario where you can take over the account of a person that has done, is the author of a certain PyPI library. So I think 2FA on this is really going to make a difference.
Yeah, that'll be huge. From just like even attacks where, like someone social engineers a domain registrar.
Yeah.
That happens. Yes, this is all sorts of other things besides that too, but that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that wasn't, it would be huge.
Yeah, I'm surprised it wasn't implemented before either. That definitely seems like a no-brainer thing. But I do wonder what's going to happen if they don't have that. Like, for example, if somebody just doesn't update their 2FA and they just never log into their PyPI account, are they going to prevent them from like pushing updates to it or, something like that? Could be interesting to see.
Yeah, it would be very interesting. I wonder if does NPM do this at all?
I don't know. I feel like they should.
I'd be very. I feel like they definitely should.
Yeah, I think it's not mandatory, but it is something that you can configure. See, and I'm glad PyPI has sort of taken the first step in moving in that direction, kind of setting the industry standard. Yeah. My beloved language, Python, just happens to be just doing everything right. So I love to see that.
Good old Python.
Dude, I love it, man. I really do. I still write Python every day. It's the best. Okay, so news section done. Corben switches from co-host to guest. So, man, we've been hacking together for probably 5 years at this point. And I don't know that I've ever heard the whole, like, how did you get into bug bounty story? I know we've run into each other at live hacking events, but like, my backstory is Tommy DeVos just rolled into my, cybersecurity class and just started teaching about bug bounty randomly, without even being invited, to the best of my knowledge.
That's so funny.
I know, he just showed up one day and I was like, hello?
Who's this guy?
But yeah, what's yours? How did you hear about bug bounty and that whole industry?
Well, I didn't know. I had gotten into like hacking when I was a freshman in high school. But I didn't know bug bounty was a thing or that you could even do ethical legal hacking until I was a junior in high school.
Okay.
And I was on Twitter and I saw someone's tweet. I think it might have been Tommy too. I think he tweeted
really?
like, I was awarded $10,000.
Why is he such everyone's origin story?
Yeah, and so he was like, I think he had tweeted out like a big bounty amount that he'd gotten from like Yahoo or something.
Sure.
I was like, what? Like, that's a lot of money. He did this for what? And so then like I clicked on the link that was in the tweet, and then I like came across HackerOne. I'm like, whoa, you can get paid to report vulnerabilities? And so I signed up for HackerOne and gave it a test. It was a struggle at first. I thought I was like a god at hacking.
Yeah.
That's something that'll humble you really quickly.
Yeah.
And so, then I started doing bug bounties, kept after it, and here I am.
Okay, so you literally, you didn't really know any other in-person bug bounty hunters. You just kind of found it on Twitter and then kind of rolled into it.
Yep, I had no idea about what it was. So like I think I followed Tommy on Twitter. I found some other like bug bounty hunters on Twitter and just like started following them.
Yeah.
I just signed up for HackerOne. I read through some like I like.
There's no Hacker 101 at that point either,
No, there wasn't. That there wasn't any like pen tester. I don't think there was like pen tester lab or like any of those like courses and stuff. So like I had taught myself to hack before that. A lot of going through like exploit DB stuff.
Oh yeah,
and then,
the classics.
Yeah, and then a lot of just like reading tutorials and like reading people's like Twitter posts, blogs. Then just like trying through trial and error. So
nice.
I spent a lot of time on like the DoD program.
Yeah.
When I first started. I started on like public programs and tried to do like bug bounties, and then like I just failed miserably. So I tried like the Department of Defense, and I got like tons of dupes from that. But it was like really good experience in practicing.
It's so funny, man. I think I'm getting notifications right now from like 4 years ago that of them closing bugs that I reported 4 years ago. And I'm like, on one hand, like that's kind of impressive that you're actually still tracking this bug. Yeah. But on the other hand, like, why?
Wow.
4 years? Like, please. So, do you endorse the DoD VDP to bug bounty, you know, as sort of like a training ground for actual bug bounty, for like you receive a bounty, bug bounty methodology, or would you do it differently if you went back?
Would I do it differently than what I did like originally?
Yeah, I mean, just say, so if you were advising someone to start now, would you say go ahead and start on the DoD program, or would you say, you know, try to just go straight after bug bounty?
I mean, that's a hard one. I would say I don't think you can go wrong with either. I mean, it took me 10 months to get my first bounty, but that was okay for me because like I was a high schooler. Yeah. I was just doing it in my free time, like doing school. It's kind of just hacking for fun. So I mean, like if you have prior experience, yeah, like for me, I didn't have tons of like, I was in high school, didn't have that much experience with computers. Hacking, didn't have like, so I feel like you already work as like security engineer. You have some pretty solid fundamentals. I mean, why would you not just go for just any like normal bug bounty program? I think for people who are wanting to work on like fundamentals, just all that jazz, I would say like work on recon, all that. Just get a very good like solid understanding of different vulnerability classes, different technologies and stuff. I'd say go for the Department of Defense because they have all sorts of stuff. Yeah,
they do have a lot of different stacks, and I think also you can see your origin, you know, a little bit clearly in your current attack vector methodology, because you know, like you almost have sort of like a Jason Haddix-ish flow of like, all right, I'm going to do X amount of recon and I'm going to find like these weird, you know, ASPX endpoints that are like no one ever thought was real. Yeah. You know, and it's not necessarily like, and you know, don't get me wrong, I've seen you pwn new companies and old companies alike, but you know, I feel like the DoD having such a wide scope, having such an array of technologies and being a little bit more outdated sort of led you down the path to being, you know, focusing really hard on recon and having that be a key part of your methodology. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yep, I'd say that. And then hacking a lot with like NAFI. NAFI like mentored me a ton. So like, yeah, I have a lot of like NAFI like mentality when it comes to like infrastructure and stuff like that too. So yes.
Any tidbits on that you want to share? I think NAFI is an interesting character, and we'll probably have him on the pod at some point. But his hacking methodology is definitely pretty different from a lot of what I've seen. Yeah, no, he finds apps that no one would have ever found and just completely destroys them once he's found them. That's what I love about it. It's like, okay, just like you make new opportunities for yourself, and then So I mean, what does that entail?
I mean, I don't want to give his away.
Well, it's yours now too. I remember this deal though, that you had with NAFI a while back. And if we have to cut this section, we can. But, you know, there was a deal that y'all made about NAFI working with you and him getting a certain percent of your bounty. And you guys were working at a live hacking event together. Yeah. And that was like what? That was, I think it was that, maybe it was that one. That was probably like 4 or 5 years ago, right?
2019-ish?
Yeah, 4 years ago. So I feel like the statute of limitations on that is up. I mean, you got. I mean, if you don't want to dox your secrets, or dox your secrets, that's fine. You know, if you don't want to disclose all that, but yeah, I think it's really interesting. I know that NAFI's approach is largely virtual host enumeration based in a lot of scenarios, which is something that not a lot of people poke at. And I think mapping out the internal routing on a company can result in some crazy stuff. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Is that still a part of your methodology?
Yeah, I look a lot at load balancers. I play a lot with load balancers and just like different ingress endpoints. And I mean, the nice thing is like when you do it for a long time, you can kind of start noticing like how apps work. And then also just like if you've been in like software development, or I guess
architecture or whatever.
I guess like if you have if you've ever played with like Kubernetes, set up like infrastructure around that, it's like you get a pretty solid understanding of just how, you know, how it's made, how everything works, and you can start poking at stuff. So
welcome to this episode of How It's Made with Corben.
How It's Made.
And so, okay, so how are you identifying a load balancer? Are you just doing virtual host scans and seeing if multiple stuff pop up, and then assuming that that's a load balancer?
It kind of depends on the technology, right? So like with Amazon, you have like CNAMEs to like ELB.
Nice.
I mean, you can look at like You can look at headers, like response headers will make it obvious. There's
what
default.
kind of stuff have you seen in response? So just to break down what he just said just a second ago, if there's a CNAME to a on a host to a Amazon endpoint that has ELB in the domain name as the result of the CNAME, then that's Elastic Load Balancer, and that's going to be clearly doing some load balancing, right? Mm-hmm. And then you said in the response headers, there's some stuff that might be there.
Yep. So like you'll see maybe like, let's see, like for instance, like with Kong, you'll see like a header that has like Kong in it, and that's like an ingress. You'll see like an Istio.
So it'll disclose the technology stack.
So like it can do that. Then there's other times where like headers aren't, and then you'll just know like default response is like backend not found or something like that.
Okay.
And then it's just like trying it on a few apps and seeing like if there's like header, like if you can also just like kind of think how like Fuff does, or FF, however you say it. I hate trying to pronounce this. Fuff. Yeah, if you like set you can do like auto, like how FF does it, like auto calibration. So you like send a couple HTTP requests to different host headers, see how it responds, and if it varies, like maybe you'll try fuzzy in there. But
nice. Yeah, it's tricky, man. I definitely don't. I started doing that a little bit on some apps, on some specific targets that I know are vulnerable to it, and it's not. And I even tried to build some automation around it at some point. Starting, and this is something that I'll tell people that are building out the recon flows nowadays. Is like, if you have a bunch of hosts that map, those hosts are not necessarily only going to map to the IP addresses that they resolve to. So in your sort of recon framework, in your recon architecture, you should be building in this functionality that is going to be allowing you to map domains to IP addresses, right? And I think that makes a big difference, because you can find different domains are accessible on different IP addresses than the things they resolve to, which could give you different access. You agree?
Yeah, and I mean, like a lot of it isn't even like vhosting too. It's just like, okay, this host name might point to like Akamai or some like IP that isn't resolved, but like the chances is that IP might still be exposed, and it's just like the way they're routing it is defined this way, but this host is still here, and you can just access it this way. So
sure, nice. Solid. Okay. Well, that's some good tips if you're trying to keep an eye out for this sort of vhost realm and enumerate some internal assets using that. So you started off in bug bounty. You just signed up for the website. Took 10 months to get your first bounty, and then you started rolling. How did you land in the live hacking event circuit?
That's a good question. I think it was after I started getting more comfortable with bug bounties, I started looking at Yahoo. And so I started hacking on Yahoo a bit, and had like some XXEs. I think I had like an XXE, a couple SSRFs. And then I think my first event might have been, there was one in New York.
Yeah.
And it was a team event. It's like the only team event.
That was your first event?
Yeah. I think it was my first event.
Wow.
I'm fairly sure.
I guess we had worked together before then, at that point then, because I feel like I knew you at that point.
Yeah, because I think like I knew you, I knew Sam.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure that I can't remember what other event would have been. Oh no, my first live hacking event, I was not a hacker. That's when I was triaging at HackerOne.
That's right. Okay. Now it's starting to get the picture a little bit clearer.
It's making more sense to me. So I had been hacking on Yahoo for a bit, and then I had done a semester of college. Then I dropped out of college and was triaging at HackerOne for like 6 or 7. It's like 7, maybe 8 months. I think it was less than that. But I was triaging at one of the first, or my first live event. I was one of the Vegas events at 702. So I was doing triage there.
That tracks.
And I'd already known people from like hacking with them as well. So
yeah, that definitely tracks. So
yeah.
That's an interesting path. Like I've sort of recommended this to some of my friends that are trying to get into bug bounty and are also not necessarily in love with the fact that bug bounty doesn't have consistent income. Is that, hey, if you get started, you get rolling, you start understanding how vulns can be reproduced, and you start understanding, it'll at a little bit more technical level, and you jump into a triage role, that can really boost your game.
Yeah, I'd agree.
You would agree with that?
It definitely also helps you like learn even how to write better reports down the line. Yeah, definitely. I would also recommend that to people who are, in that boat. As an
ex-triager here, what is some of the stuff that we do that's hella annoying from the triager side?
From the triage side, it would be like there's people who just write like who just give you like the URL, or they just like write the most basic report with like no information. And I think it's gotten a bit different. I don't know how like.
This is like 4 or 5 years.
This was This was 5. This was in 2018.
Yeah. So 5 years ago now.
Math. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think one of the biggest irks, I guess, was just like the lack of writing. Some people did that, like just give you this, give you a URL. Like
at that point in time, did you have to rewrite the report for the customer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had our own like internal templates and internal expectations of like what we had to write and provide. So like people would also write like 10 pages in that, and then we had to condense that to like we got to pick every like the important parts out and give like a very clear, concise like reproduction. Here's the impact. Stuff like that.
Dude, HackerOne needs to start training. HackerOne needs to start training like their own offline, model, LLM model to be able to do that. Because that would be pretty nice to just be like, okay, here's this like, Alex Chapman 25-page report, and I need to condense this down to like, a page or two for the customer. That'd be pretty good.
Yep, or like a HackerOne Grammarly.
Yeah, right. That would be really good. I'm sure you can't use actual Grammarly at HackerOne. Yeah,
probably not.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's one thing I said is like it'd be really cool to have like a language model, like fine tuned to my specific writing style. That'd be amazing. For reports.
Well, you can train it a little bit. I've done some of the stuff for the pod. Just sort of taking the writing that we've done, with descriptions and titles and stuff like that, and then just takes the actual content of the podcast, and then, it says, all right, here are 6 suggestions for the title, or, here are 3 different rewrites of the description and stuff like that. And I think that just provides a nice little, jump off point. And I trained it with the previous, titles and descriptions and stuff like that too. So it still has the same sort of voice and that sort of thing. And I think LLMs do a pretty good job of keeping the voice consistent across, multiple bodies of text. So that's pretty rad. Yeah. Solid. Okay. So I guess as you left triaging 8 months, max after you started, why did you do that? And how do you feel about the triager realm nowadays?
It was a good experience, but I was getting kind of burnt out of it, and my parents wanted me to go back to school. They wanted me to go to college. I didn't really want to go to college, but I was like, screw it. It's kind of fun just to, I guess, be a kid and not have responsibilities.
Yeah, right? For sure.
And so, I decided to transfer to a school out in South Dakota, and it was a good experience, but I'm really glad I went back to school, not necessarily just because I needed the education. Yeah, but it was just like a fun experience in general, where I just got to meet friends and have a good time.
So you grew up in, was it Minnesota?
Yep, Minnesota.
And then you went out of state.
I went out of state
to South Dakota. So
South Dakota.
For those of you that are not in the U.S., South Dakota is like there's nothing in South. There's Mount Rushmore, I think, is in part of South Dakota.
Yeah, it's on the West Rapid.
But like South Dakota is like one of the least popular and populated states in the U.S. So what made you just move from Minnesota And instead of going out of state to any other state, what made you land on South Dakota?
Yeah, so it was...
Not trying to diss your new state here. I'm just saying.
No, I know.
Got to provide the context.
It's pretty unique. It's super unique. And like whenever I tell someone I'm from South Dakota, I'm just like super confused. And they're like, wait. And I think like North Dakota? Oh, there's 2 Dakotas? Like, where's that?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so it was July when I decided I wanted to be done with triaging, I believe. And I had thought about going to either a school in Minnesota, but it was so late that a lot of schools didn't have transfers open anymore. And so there was one school I'd heard of in South Dakota that was known for cybersecurity for some reason.
Oh, cool.
And that's not what I was going to go for. Like I went for computer science. But I was like, hey, these people like at least will like hacking like I like hacking, or at least I'll find some people that are at least interested in the same topic.
Sure.
And they had applications open super late. So I just like applied to transfer and they accepted.
Nice.
And then I just went out there on a whim, just kind of last second, like why not, I guess.
Yeah.
Still close enough to home, but also new. And
how did you enjoy that? Like I feel like that's one of the things that I don't really endorse nowadays is like going to college for the sake of going to college. But I think lately my opinions have been kind of coming back around of like, while you're young, you don't have to grind, and go hard on the career stuff. You can actually just go and enjoy. And college is, a great place to meet other friends, participate in club activities, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So if you're still looking to grow as a person, college might be a good place to do it.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, it's hard too because I guess it can be expensive.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
I mean, I definitely enjoyed it. I don't think I liked like the computer science stuff. I don't think I ever needed like the education. I think it was good. I wouldn't rely on it just to get to where you want to be. Like I would never just go through courses and expect
to pop out the other
exactly.
end.
To like come out like, oh yeah, I know everything, I'm ready for this. Is like I think if you really want to learn or get anything, that you have to spend the time doing it yourself personally.
Totally.
Especially in the tech space, is like things move so quickly and technologies change. So yeah, I mean, I think if you want to grow as a person, meet some really great friends, and just like really, I guess, enjoy your life. Like I definitely would recommend college still because. I mean, you have your entire life to grind. You might as well, enjoy some time. Going from that, like, younger, like high schooler age where you think you're an adult, but then you like finish college and you're like, wow, I'm a totally different person than I was back then.
Yeah.
So I think it's good for like, I guess, character development, personal development.
For sure. It definitely is. And yeah, I think that is something that I, from an early age was also very career oriented. And so I think that having that extra, time to grow, figure out who you are, not a bad route, just to say the least.
Well, yeah, and it gives you a lot of times to like, I guess, experiment with what you really want to do too, right? So
that's true.
Like for instance, for me, like it gave me so much time to do bug bounties, and also like just like develop my skills in that. Like you can learn, I guess, whatever you want. You have plenty of like free time to explore hobbies, or I guess what do you want to do with your life?
Yeah, for sure. So I know you just said you did comp sci as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I did comp sci as well. And I have to say, from a hacker perspective, I feel like a lot of the stuff that I learned in comp sci isn't incredibly relevant. Like if I want to go and do software engineering and I want to like really optimize this algorithm and get like the complexity down, whatever, then it'd be really great to have computer science background. But a lot of hacking isn't really about that, and it's more about understanding the full flow of everything, right? And I think
that's why comp sci is better than a cybersecurity degree, right? It's like I don't think you don't really need. Like that's why I'd always recommend like comp sci if someone doesn't know exactly what like they want to do, because it's just like it lays down a very solid like baseline. But again, it's like I don't think you even need a degree.
Yeah.
It's just more so as like I like if we're going to like talk about degrees and like getting one, I'd say computer science, just because of like the fundamentals rather than like, oh, we're just gonna learn how to hack. And it's like, wait, you still need all these like other like, fundamentals to get good at it, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think unless you're going to a really like reputable cybersecurity institution, then I think it may be better for you to focus specifically on comp sci and then supplement with your own, certificate-based training towards cybersecurity. But actually, Corben, I'm gonna disagree with you on this one, because I think personally this is the hierarchy right here. You've got cybersecurity degree, you've got computer science degree, and you've got computer engineering degree. And I think okay. So I think all of the people that I like, for example, Joel and Sam Erb and like some of the other really like I feel like I talk to these guys and they're like, yeah, man, I remember like, when I was desoldering this thing from this board in college, I'm like, what? Like,
my school didn't have computer engineering.
Yeah.
That would have been fun. That would have been, yeah.
And I feel like even the people that I met at my school that were doing computer engineering instead of computer science, I was like, man, these guys just have a little bit of a deeper understanding of like just like lower level concepts,
even lower, yeah.
And I think
even better baseline.
Yeah, exactly, an even better baseline. So I was gonna say, if people are gonna go into college and get a degree, I think I would actually push computer engineering over comp sci or even cybersecurity.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, getting back over to the list over here. So I guess let's talk a little bit about your combination of writing and hacking, right? So I know we talked a little bit about sort of copywriting and like just this whole concept of trying to develop yourself as a writer. And then, you kind of wrote all these Twitter threads that went mega viral a while back. So any tips or tricks to share with the hacker community about the importance of writing or how to write well as a hacker?
Yeah, I mean, when I was writing those Twitter threads, I got so much flack from people about like, oh, you oversimplified this, or like,
did you really?
I got a lot. Oh yeah, there's lots of people that were like making fun of me, or not necessarily making fun of me, just like give me crap, or just saying, oh, like, oh, did the intern write this? Like people were very,
dang, dude.
I don't know. I guess being, I don't even know what the word to describe that is, but that's totally fine with me because like that's not who I was writing for.
Right.
And so like you have all these people who write like these like immaculate, like technical writings as kind of just like I don't need to stroke my own ego and try to sound as technical as possible, because like, okay, you write that, you're making your audience,
you're alienating
and people who can understand that. You're alienating, first off, you're alienating a huge audience, and you're also only writing for like a really small number of people who might be on the same level as you.
Yeah. And
like my whole purpose of writing these Twitter threads were to I guess figure out how to explain things clearly and
and simplify it too.
Reach a larger audience, maybe get people interested in bug bounties, get them interested in hacking.
Yeah.
And like also have them still be able to like understand it and get like intrigued in it and maybe want to try and learn some of this, right? And
and I think you didn't simplify it, too much. It's not like, okay, I went to the internet and found this directory. It's like, no, here's the here's the exact like subfinder command I used. Here's the exact gal command I used.
Yeah.
Here's the and it's like, and so I think it's a really nice balance of like technical content and storytelling, which is until you've tried it, you don't really know how difficult it is, because it's very challenging.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time writing those threads. Like, I think the fastest one I wrote was like 55 minutes, which was like probably maybe like a waste of time. But no, it was like really good to practice because it's such like technical writing, but still writing in a way that's intriguing and, like...
Yeah. I think that's a great skill. I mean, being able to captivate an audience is really powerful, and it's not it's not a skill that's very commonly, paired with a high level of technical ability. And so I think that's, one of the podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis is My First Million, and it was talking about how I love that pod. And one of the things that they've talked about just from a framework perspective is like, you don't have to be the best at hacking or the best at blockchain or the best at any of these other things. You just have to take, a above average ability here and combine it with an above average ability over here. And now you've got a mixed skill set that's really unique and marketable.
Yeah.
And I think your ability to do something like that with this writing is really, I think that's amazing. So nice stuff there. And so, I mean, do you really largely credit Sampar's copy this or whatever it is writing course?
Copy that.
Or copy that.
Yeah, that course was really good. So yeah, that's a big reason why. I took that course, and then I wanted to try applying it to something pretty technical. And so yeah, I mean that was a pretty it's a great course. I still go back and go through it. Or at least like pieces of it to kind of just like refine writing skills. I think everyone should take a course on copywriting just because it's like just writing effectively, I guess. Like you don't need to be super long-winded. I think it's a good course. But at the same time, that's like this is a problem I have with Twitter right now is that everyone's becoming marketery, yes. Okay. Where everything's like a marketing thread now. And it's like, you have to have this good combination of like effective writing, but like actual substance.
Genuine content,
like, yeah, because like I've seen so many like, oh, Bard just killed GPT-4. Like,
oh my gosh, it's everywhere,
here's 10 prompts you can use. It's just like all this noise of like, you don't really like, everything's supposed to be, like when everyone's doing the same thing, it's just, I don't know. Yeah. It's just so
it gets to be
you're just being you can tell marketing material versus like actual material substance is still like captivating, I guess.
Yeah, so. lots of bloat out there, I think, and so taking this ability to do copywriting or effectually tell a story and convey and captivate an audience and transporting this into report writing. So, I'm interested to see how I'm interested to hear your opinion on how that's affected the severity of your reports. And I will just before I let you answer that, I will say Nogly is a big proponent for this as well. And you gotta. I've collabed with Nogly on a couple of reports, and I'll write some stuff down. And he's like, no. How do you ever How do you exactly? Yes. No. How do you ever get critical reports when you write like this? And Nogly just kind of like rewrites it and like very strongly states everything.
Yes.
And I think that's one extreme as well, and it definitely works for him. But what are your thoughts on the value of copywriting and storytelling in the context of a technical report?
Yeah, so like for me, I don't really do like it's not storytelling in my report. It's like very technical, but it's technical where it needs to be, right? So like the summary might not be as technical. Like, okay, I found this bug. Blah, blah, blah. This is what it does. This is, I guess, how it works. And that's like pretty technical, but like the summary and then the impact are not maybe like more like copywriting, but it's just more just very clear, straightforward, to the point writing where it's like, this is the impact. This is what you can do X, Y, Z, where you're listing explicitly why this is a critical and what your specific views are on that. Because like, this is why I think I talked to someone about this, or we had a whole like talk at I think it was one of the Hacker Advisory Board meetings about the impact section and the purpose of the impact section. People were like, oh, well, like it doesn't make sense to me because like I just write my impact in the summary. And I'm like, well, for me, in my impact section, like I'll write either like maybe I'll have, if I'm lazy, I'll just write basically what I had in the summary.
Sure.
Otherwise, like if it's like a critical report, I will list out every single metric in the CVS
piece,
piece that I've like selected. And I'll explain why I have it set to that and why it should stay set as that. And then if the program disagrees with me, they'll at least have an exact, very clear response back of why they disagree or why that should be changed. And that helps a lot with like disagreements on severity. Great tip
there. I mean, I rarely go to that level of detail, but in the times that I have, it's really made those triage or misunderstandings that sometimes get your report downgraded or program misunderstandings that sometimes get your report downgraded, it's really minimized those. So I'm actually going to write myself a note right now to go in and do that for the next live hacking event, because especially when you're at the live hacking events and like reports are flying all over the place and triagers are adjusting stuff and you know, it gets really tricky to have those, you know, complex CVSS conversations. And if you provide justification for each metric, that's the word we were looking for, metric.
Yeah, metrics. Thank you, English.
And if you provide explanations for each one of those metrics, then I think it could really provide a lot of clarity.
Yeah, and it also like it forces the program to really like dive deep and like actually consider your report rather than like, okay, yeah, we have this bug. I don't know. It like really forces them to think through all the different aspects that maybe they haven't thought through before. So
yeah, for sure. Solid. Let's talk a little bit about your hacking methodology. And then I also want to talk about some entrepreneurial pieces as well, because that's something you and I have sort of bonded over, being hackers and entrepreneurs at the same time. So that's something that I'd like to talk about as well. So I guess just talking a little bit more about the recon flow, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but you know, you're going out there, you're doing recon, and this is a quote that we quote almost every episode. I love this quote from Jay Haddix. The whole point of recon is to find more applications to hack, right? And so when do you stop and actually intentionally hack an application versus continuing your recon? And we'll break that question off there.
Yeah, because that's a really hard, I think that's a hard skill to learn for beginners, is when to stop doing recon and when to start hacking, because it's really easy to get into the like pattern of like, okay, I'm just gonna run Subfinder, I'm gonna write FF on everything.
Totally.
And just like keep finding until like maybe you like somehow find like a Git directory on some host or something like that. Right. So I guess it's pretty difficult to define like what exactly will make me stop, but a lot of times it's just like intuition.
Sure.
So you see like I'm doing like directory brute forcing. I've used like 3-word lists, not finding much. Maybe I'll just like hop to the next host. I found an interesting directory on this, or like maybe it's like a React app on this like subdirectory, and then you can go through the JavaScript files and start actually hacking and doing like normal actual like hacking methodology, or I guess more like pen testing methodology, I guess.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of just this like intuition flow that I have kind of nailed down. Sometimes I'm lazy and it's like, okay, I'm just going to run FF on a bunch of different hosts and just do it that way. Or I can just do it in the background while I'm looking at something else too.
That was the follow-up question to this, was like, okay, so, you know, you found a couple things, you found, your 40 or 50 hosts you're going to assess, and you go to each host and you kind of do smart FF instead of like normal FF, where you go to the host, you're not just brute forcing on slash, always. Sometimes you're going to the host and you're saying, okay, well, the index page redirects to slash, dashboard, but then it gives an error or something like that. So you actually brute force under slash dashboard.
It's not like, it's an images directory, I'm going to key.
Right.
Something like
you don't want to waste your bandwidth doing that. So, but like how many would you say, like, you described two extremes there. You described, finding a specific application and then just really sort of going deep on that based off of your intuition. And you also described just sort of brute forcing everything. Where do you think the average sits? All right, I'm normally brute forcing like 3 to 4 applications at a time, or 10 or 20 or one at a time, and really just reading all the JavaScript files while it's running.
Yeah, I typically just do one at a time.
Really? Okay.
For the most part.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I think focus is also really important.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous when you try to go after too many things at too many times. Like you're just going to miss things. So typically I can get a pretty good feel for, like what I want to hack on. So it's like I'll do my reconnaissance, and it's kind of just this process of like filtering all this data down to like a single thing at a time. And so I will typically do recon until I find a host that's interesting. Then I'll do recon on that host. And so I'll do like directory brute forcing. If there's like a dashboard on it, then I'll start like reading through JavaScript files and just start like hacking it.
Solid.
Then when I'm sick of that single one, I'll go hop to something else.
That's cool to hear, because I definitely didn't see your methodology that way. I figured you'd be doing, directory brute forcing across multiple hosts, 10, 20 hosts on a regular basis. But for you, and I think this is something really cool to highlight with Corben's methodology here, is that he's a little bit of a recon hacker, but he also is like sort of a deep recon hacker, right? Because you're going to a host, you're doing a lot of directory brute forcing, you're doing a lot of enumeration, but also you're doing that in a smart way. You're reading the JavaScript files, you're recursively brute forcing on folders you found, that sort of thing, and keeping your attention on one host, which I think is really, that's key.
Yeah, or also like adjacent hosts as well. So like JavaScript file might reference some other APIs and like working on those too, because it's all a part of this like one
that's
bigger
great
like application. So
you're taking, you're breaking apart the JS file. You're saying, okay, these are the adjacent hosts to this, the hosts that work on this specific or that power this specific website, and you're using text from the other page, using references from that JS file to enumerate stuff on the APIs as well.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Solid, and so that's pretty huge too, because there will be so many like API endpoints you'll never be able to guess.
Yeah.
Without all this other like contextual, all these other contextual pieces. So
man, I gotta find this this tweet from you. I was just reading through some of your tweets that you put out previously, and it was like, oh, here it is right here. I'll link it to you. Hold on. I'm gonna send it to you in Discord. Scroll down, and we'll put this tweet in the description as well. This is Corben's tweet on hacking the military. But scroll down to like the the third tweet, and it says, after reading the JS files in directory brute forcing, I came across this endpoint, Squirm 2004 upload course.aspx. And I'm like, what is that? Was that in your brute forcing? Yep. Like, no. How did you? No. So, but you got that ASPX file from reading the JS file, and then I guess maybe you found the full path by like brute forcing some directories and such?
Yeah, and so like one thing that I do that I don't know if anyone else does is I'll find a directory called like JavaScript, and I'll brute force for JavaScript files.
That's big.
So I've done that, and also I've tried to find CSS files, because sometimes I'll do like import like image from like this, and it'll be like some like super long directory that like you might not be able to find. But yeah, I think I was brute forcing through 4 JavaScript files, and I had like come across a new directory with like JavaScript files, and I brute forced some in there. Then that's when I came across that ASPX file.
Nice. So you actually brute forced for the JS files, which led you to this more complex ASPX endpoint.
Yep. So it's like going through JavaScript files to find some endpoints, and then brute forcing those, and then in one of those there's like a reference to that. So.
Nice. That's a great takeaway. Yeah. I like that. Nice, man. Well, that's so we're at about an hour now. I did have one other sort of status of yours post of yours that I wanted to look at. You know what? But I think we're going to save this one for a different time, because I did want to follow up on some entrepreneurial stuff as well. So currently, a couple months back, you announced BreachlessAI, and I kind of want to hear about some lessons learned from that, because it seems like you pivoted over to Boring Mattress Co. now, which I also I love, and I'll hold up my phone for the YouTube video. I've got Boring Mattress Co. on the back of my phone, and I've actually had a couple people ask me about it already, so you're getting free marketing off of this.
Yes, thank you.
But what happened to Breachless.ai, and what kind of lessons did you learn from that?
Yeah, so
first introduce it too, because people may not know.
Yeah, so Breachless, the idea behind that was that I was going to use artificial intelligence to basically the idea was to do analysis of incoming emails and add in to take a step behind, the current state was like it was to help prevent social engineering attacks, right? And so like you have companies like KnowBe4, like all these different companies that are doing these what are they called, so security awareness trainings. And so it's like you force employees to go through really boring, outdated videos that are like 20 years old, or they're just like really like irrelevant to like the average person. Like a hacker might think, oh wow, these are like really funny, these are really cool, and then you have your like, average Joe's like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever had to watch, what do I have to watch this? Then the problem too is like, okay, yeah, you watched a video 4 times a year and you never remember it in the moment. And so my idea was to add context to actual emails in like the form of a banner to help people identify social engineering attacks or potential social engineering attacks, just like right in each email. And so that was the idea there. It didn't go very far. I actually had a pretty sizable wait list. I think I had like 200 to 300
nice, dude,
companies on that wait list.
That's a lot, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually pretty decent. There's some pretty like decent sized companies on that. But what made me move away from it was I wanted to bootstrap the company. I didn't want to raise venture capital.
Yeah.
And it was also a pretty crowded space.
Just phishing, anti-phishing stuff?
Yeah, just like email security stuff. I don't think that necessarily should have like maybe turned me away so much, but I think the biggest issue was the requirements for a lot of companies have for like SOC 2 audits. So
what is that?
It's like basically companies when they want to use let's see, like I don't want to mess it up.
Sure. And while you're looking that up,
it's a compliance. It's like a compliance standard, which is like how organizations manage like data.
Yeah.
And so like you have to go through this like compliance process, and be able to like provide this to each customer that like asks for it.
Gotcha.
And so that costs at least like $150,000, and I didn't really want to pay that out of pocket with an without like
VC, yeah.
Develop an MVP and then have to pay $150,000 out of pocket just for that. Like that's a pretty big expense out of pocket, especially without raising money. And
that's a huge barrier to entry for new players.
Jeez. Yeah, it's big, and there are people I think you can find an auditor like you could probably give like equity to and pay them a lot less. But with that it was just kind of like a turnoff, and then my co-founder Dahi was talking about getting back into the mattress industry.
The mattress space.
And so I jumped over to that, and I was also very intrigued by like consumer goods. So I thought that would be a cool thing to tackle.
Sleep is such a cool thing to go after too. Like I feel like that is
such
an amazing industry. Yeah.
So hopped over to that. I still think the Breachless product, the idea there is pretty cool. If someone can like,
I can see the gears turning in your head still, like as you're talking about it.
I know, I still love it.
Yeah,
I still love the idea, and I don't think it's a bad idea. It's just like, maybe someday.
Yeah. Would you consider selling or handing off that email list or wait list of companies to somebody who wanted to take a stab at Breachless?
Yeah, I mean, I'd still be interested in like being involved with it somewhat, but it's just like, do you want to raise like venture capital? It's just like a whole nother, completely different than just a good bootstrap.
Well, there you go. If any of you other hackers out there are interested in an entrepreneurial opportunity, I love the product. I think it's a really good fit. Having an email banner, having some sort of add-on for G Suite or for Outlook, and scanning.
And who knows? Microsoft might just have this in theirs now with GPT-4. They'll be able to do that too.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is I feel like maybe my timelines are a little off. But did you launch this before ChatGPT blew up?
I think it was about.
Or at least it was very early.
Just before garbage.
Yeah.
It was really early. It was before ChatGPT was released.
Yeah. And so that's, man.
Because they had GPT-3.
Yeah.
The API for that, and that was it.
That was a great timing of the market, I think. That before that whole thing blew up, you had already launched this, and so man, I've still got high hopes for it. I would love to see it at some point pop up. So definitely let me know if you're getting back into it again, because I think that'd be a really cool thing to be involved with. And also, I hope you find someone in the industry who's got the bandwidth to take it on, because I would love to use it in an organization.
Yeah.
All right. I guess the other question that I have is like, what sort of hacker entrepreneurial takeaways did you have from that experience of pivoting? Like, was that a hard move for you to pivot away from it? I could see a little bit of cognitive dissonance, I think, in your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. It's different because like I still like the idea, but I'm also like I don't know where it. I'm still optimistic, but I'm like pessimistic in other ways because like the cybersecurity field is like extremely saturated from where it used to be, but at the same time I like the idea a lot, and I think it could be very helpful. But then I'm also like pessimistic about like, okay, why can't Microsoft just add that?
Yeah,
which I think they very well could. Now
I think they probably
their
will.
Integration. I think with all their integrations, is okay. It's probably a good thing I did step away from it, but you know,
there's definitely market risk there. I think, you know,
huge,
because
yeah.
you could easily get replaced by a big player, or
exactly.
you could get acquired by a big player. You know, that's the other thing. And
for someone who wants like a quick integration.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not like, I guess, worried about it. It was actually relatively easy for me to
pivot,
jump away. It was, first it was like it's a little sad because I liked the idea.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was like I had all these other kind of like had some doubts, but yeah, I knew it's where I needed to go next, and I guess I had to just trust my gut on that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I'm glad to see that you know, were able to successfully assess the difficulties of that specific challenge and pivot. And I'm excited to see where Boring Mattress Co. is headed. Do you have any update on that? Last I heard, you got your prototype out to the house. Yes,
it's super comfy. I've been sleeping on it for a while now.
Yeah.
I love it. It's super amazing.
So, I mean, are you going to make a lot more? Are you going to make much modification to that mattress, or are you guys going to just move forward with it?
Not to the mattress itself. I think we're still iterating on the covers. So that's like the outside of it. That's like you have like all your foam. There's like fire sock on it, and then the cover is like the outside, like the aesthetic. We're still figuring out that.
That piece of it. Gotcha.
Yeah, we're not going to take any. Yeah,
I think the
utmost piece.
Let me just go ahead and add my 2 cents to the mattress industry here. I got these bed sheets, and this is bed sheets, so it's a different arena. But who knows? Maybe you could do a package deal or something.
No, we will probably at some point.
And so I've got these bed sheets, and for one, there's like these bamboo bed sheets that are just super like cool, and cool meaning like, you know, not like the opposite of hot, not like cool as in amazing.
Not like,
they're very cool, you know, like, and they're awesome, and I love them, and it really helps me sleep better. But also, they have this little pocket on the side of the bed. It's built into, you know, the side of the mattress, the fitted sheet, or the fitted sheet that goes on the mattress, and it's perfect size to like put your phone in, and it's just like such a nice little thing. You know, you're in bed, you got your phone, and then you just slide it right into this pocket.
Just put it next.
So anyway, there's your little tidbit.
That's
you know,
funny.
cut me in whenever
That's
you
really
make millions off of that, and
so
yeah, we'll be good. Cool. Well, dude, thanks for coming on to the pod. I tried to, you know, dedicate this last section to the Boring Mattress Company, but you got any other shout outs you wanna make?
Not really.
Solid.
Shout out to everyone hacking out there.
Yeah. Well, you can find Corben at twitter.com/hacker_, and then Boring Mattress Company is twitter.com/boringmattress, which somehow you got. That's awesome.
That's because no one in that industry is going to admit that mattresses are boring.
Yeah, that's true.
They've got it. That's also why I like the brand.
That's a great Yeah, and I love the copy as well on the description for your Twitter page. So I'll let I won't even read it out loud. I'll just say for those listening, go to the page, follow the account, and read the description, because I think it's a great example of engaging copy. So, all right, man. Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Sweet. That's the pod. Whew, that was a great episode with Corben. Always love having him on the pod. If you enjoyed this content, please head over to youtube.com/@criticalthinkingpodcast. Drop a like and subscribe. And also, don't forget to stay engaged on your podcast app of choice via subscribing or following or whatever it is you do. The podcast round was a little weird, so I'm sure you'll figure it out. Thanks. See y'all next week.